Um, is he gonna be okay?
Yes. I remember the first time my heart skipped a beat a few times. Just give him a few minutes. He'll be okay.
Huh? Is it over? I had the strangest dream.
See, I told you he'd be fine. And unfortunately, no, that wasn't a dream. We really did almost blow a 4-goal lead to the Senators. I know it got a little dicey there in the middle, but Vegas Golden Knights win 5-4 over the Ottawa Senators. Now, that score is not what anyone was expecting when the Golden Knights took the ice. We've had a lot of success against the Senators historically, usually some pretty lopsided wins, especially when we go up to the Great White North to take on the Senators at home. That being said, this game went a little bit differently. Now, for the Golden Knights, the lineup looked pretty much the same as usual. Logan Thompson drawing into the lineup for the second night in a row, going up against Anton Forsberg for the Senators. So the puck dropped, and the Golden Knights probably want to prioritize getting off to a good start, as they kind of struggled to do that in the last two games against the Jets and Capitals. And ultimately, that is exactly what happened, as Mark Stone would put the Golden Knights ahead 1-0 really, really early on. Now, this whole play kind of started on a Jack Eichel break-in. You know, he's very fast. He draws a lot of attention. And he just kind of walked the puck to the middle and fired it off of Forsberg, who made what looked to be a routine save, but didn't really control the rebound. So the puck's kind of kicking around low around it. And I'm not sure what was going on, but Chabot thought it would be a good idea to kick the puck out into the slot where Mark Stone happened to be standing. Now, I know that, Stone's a former Senator, and, he's probably pretty popular up there, but he's wearing a different jersey now, Sens. Don't pass him the puck. But ultimately, they passed him the puck, and he basically had a wide open net, and Mark Stone isn't going to miss that. So Stone's fourth of the year, completely unassisted, unless you give Chabot the assist on the other team, at 122, puts the Golden Knights ahead. This is the first time the Golden Knights have had the lead in 2 whole games, because they never held the lead in either of their last 2 overtime victories. So it's nice to get on the board early and try and build on that lead and keep it going. Pretty shortly after the Golden Knights went up 1, there was really bad turnover low in the defensive zone for the Golden Knights that put Dylan Gambrell in all by himself, and Logan Thompson had to come up really big off of this horrific turnover and make a save. That being said, apparently it's really hard to beat Logan Thompson in tight, but it's really easy to beat Logan Thompson from the other side of center ice, as Claude Giroux found out that all you have to do is just one hop it past our young netminder, and that's all it takes to score, as that's exactly what he did to tie the game up just a few minutes later. It was just a weird shot from the center ice. Like, we've seen these all the time all around the NHL. All you have to do is put it on net, and sometimes goalies just lose it. Now, it's pretty clear that Logan Thompson was never really a baseball player. I mean, the Battle for Vegas softball game kind of showed that, but this play in particular, he let the hop play him. I know the World Series is on, and so my head's in baseball, but, Logan Thompson had 2 choices. He either could have come out to cut down the angle on the bounce, or just made sure to keep his body in front of him. But whatever the reason, the puck just took a massive skip off the ice and almost went bar down behind Thompson. So while you can blame him for not cutting down the angle, you can't really blame him for giving up the goal, other than the fact that it was just really soft. So that was Giroux's 4th of the year, unassisted at .412. And it's probably the worst goal against of Thompson's career, and that's saying something, because he's been a really solid goalie for basically ever. That goal is a little bit of a momentum killer, and it kind of wasted the good start that the Golden Knights had with the Stone goal. But obviously, it's early, a lot can happen, and it's still the Senators. Carrier had a really good breakaway a couple of minutes after the Giroux goal that wound up being a pretty good opportunity, but a better save by Forsberg. Carrier was all over the ice tonight. This was really just the beginning of what was going to be a really good game for him. So then the Golden Knights get to go to the power play, as Mark Kastelik took a holding penalty at 8:29 of the first period. The first wave had a little bit of a hard time getting established in the offensive zone, and so their shift, for whatever the reason, was cut a little bit short in favor of the second power play unit. And the second power play unit does what the second power play unit does, as Riley Smith puts the Golden Knights ahead 2-1 with the power play goal. Now, this goal, like is so often the case, really goes to the guy getting the primary assist in the form of William Karlsson, as he basically danced through the entire Senators team, walked it down to the low slot, and then just kind of fed a perfect pass to Riley Smith on the backhand, who roofed it over Forsberg to, get the power play marker. The power play has been much improved over the course of the season. They're on a pretty good tear where they've got power play goals in, I think, 3 straight games now or something. So there's not really anything to complain about. That's Smith's 3rd of the year from Karlsson at 9:19, gives the Golden Knights the 2-1 lead.
And then a couple of minutes after that, the Golden Knights try and make their lives difficult again, as is so often the case, and take too many men on the ice. Penalty served by Amadio at 13:45. There was a really good opportunity on a low tip off of Pinto's skate in the low slot that wound up going off the scary side of the post, across the goal line and out the other side. So it was a bit of a dodged bullet. And ultimately, the Golden Knights were able to keep building on the momentum, keep pressing the play, despite not really landing the majority of the shots in the period. Because, you know, we ultimately ended the period down in shots, but the Golden Knights really contained the pressure. And late in the period, it was pretty obvious that the Golden Knights were going to try and get something to extend the lead, and that's exactly what happened. As Zach Whitecloud would put the Golden Knights up 3-1 in the dying seconds of the first period. Now, again, this play really goes to Jack Eichel, who basically found a way to force an interesting turnover, as it was horrific. It was just a dump in that a Senators defender either missed or misplayed. But that being said, Eichel was on the scene, ready to take the puck off of the Senators defender and find Mark Stone coming into the zone at full speed. And a little bit behind him was Zach Whitecloud, who would become important in just about 3 seconds. Stone draws a lot of attention. Eichel draws a lot of attention. They're both ready in the offensive zone in good shooting positions. And Whitecloud comes into the zone late, and ultimately Stone sees him, feeds it across the ice, and Whitecloud just rips it home from the low slot and, you know, gives the Golden Knights their 3-1 lead. Now, this is only the second defenseman for the Golden Knights to light the lamp this year. It's the 12th game. Despite the Golden Knights defense corps being really high up in the overall standings for points by defensemen, it's kind of odd that we haven't gotten a lot of goals from the backhand with the 3 from Shea Theodore and now this one from Zach Whitecloud. But whatever the reason, it's Whitecloud's first from Stone and Eichel in 1928. Really sucks the life out of the Senators at this point of the game. And so ultimately the horn sounds, and it was a really productive first period. Golden Knights were outshot 16-13 in the period, 55% from the dot, 1 for 1 on the power play, 10 block shots, 9 hits. The only goal against was a bit of a fluky bounce, but other than that, the Golden Knights, aside from the shot totals, were basically the dominant team when it came to overall puck possession and really the overall control and dominant flow of the game. You don't score 3 goals in the first period and go up by 2 by just being an average team. That's something that really good teams do.
Hody guy is with us. Oh, you just hush.
The Golden Knights would come out to start the second period with the same amount of speed, ferocity, and overall good play that they ended the first period with, basically controlling the play again early for the first couple of minutes of the second period. Ultimately, this would result in yet another power play for the Golden Knights, as Batherson would take a high sticking penalty at 2:26. This was an offensive zone penalty, so that's really deflating if you're a Senator. Now, that being said, this power play honestly went about as well as it could have for the Golden Knights, despite not scoring, as while it looked like Eichel had scored initially off of what really was an own goal off of Tyler Mott, it was waved back because either Stevenson or Stone or Marchessault were about a quarter of an inch offsides. I know that's not the spirit of the offside rule. It's designed to prevent Matt Duchene from Matt Duchening, but rules are the rules, and ultimately the goal is called back, which is kind of sad. The Golden Knights were in the zone for like 20 seconds following that zone entry, and it had no bearing on the play. But, you know, ifs and buts. Ultimately, goals called back. And ultimately, because of that, the Golden Knights were really disorganized for the remainder of that power play. I'm not sure whether they felt they got screwed by the officiating or they just weren't able to like rekindle what they had at that point, as the power play kind of fell flat. And ultimately, the falling flat would continue as Amadio would take a high sticking penalty at 4:52, putting the Golden Knights down a man. Now, having a goal wiped off the board is a good way to lose momentum if you're the one having the goal wiped away, and gain momentum if you were the team that got scored against for all of 30 seconds before finding out you didn't get scored against. And so the fact that we just gave the team that got scored against but didn't get scored against a man advantage is kind of concerning, as you know they're going to press hard. And press hard they did until one of them fell down. As in a simple cross-crease, cross-zone pass, Stützle in the offensive zone for the Senators fell down, sending in Waugh and Stevenson in all by themselves, 2-on-1. Now, Nick Waugh's got the puck. He's carrying it down the center. He finds Chandler Stevenson on the other side, basically passing it through the defenseman. Stevenson outweights Forsberg. It goes forehand, backhand, and dunks it behind him, you know, doing his best Jack Eichel impression, and puts the Golden Knights ahead 4-1 with his first shorthanded tally of the year. This is not the Golden Knights' first shorthanded tally of the year. And the one thing I love is that every single time the Golden Knights get on the penalty kill, the broadcast team finds it important to mention that in the last five seasons and change since the Golden Knights entered the league, we lead the league in
We lead the league in overall shorthanded goals, and this is just why. We made this one look easy, like it was simple 2-on-1. Taking advantage of a mistake, ultimately, Stevenson's 5th of the year from Watt, 5:15, extends the Golden Knights lead to 3, making the score 4-1. Now, you got to remember that the Sens still have a power play after this point, and they're relatively effective. Sanderson had a good chance low in the zone, but Logan Thompson was there. Basically, the net was wide open, and Sanderson just missed. Logan Thompson made a good save before the puck kicked out. It was mayhem in front of the net, but ultimately, it missed the net. Chance went by the wayside. And then, despite being up 4-1, with about 9 minutes into the period, the Golden Knights are still being miserably outshot 22-17. And on their 18th shot, Will Carrier would make it 5-1 Golden Knights. Now, this was just another absolutely stunningly bad turnover from a reasonably good player in the form of Alex DeBrincat. You know, he's walking out from the low in their defensive zone. He's got no one in front of him except for Carrier, who's sneaking up behind him. Whatever the reason, he decides to just, turn it over to Carrier and then fall down trying to change directions. And Carrier, despite basically forcing the turnover at the hash marks, is in all by himself, uncontested. And he walks it around from the right side of the net, or from Forsberg's right, out to the middle and slips it through the 5-hole, making it 5-1. That's Carrier's 3rd of the year unassisted at 10-14. So at this point, everything's going really, really well for the Golden Knights. They've got a 4-1 or a 4-goal lead in the form of a 5-1 score. And even better, they chased Forsberg. Now, who is coming in relief? The technically sound Martin Jones? No, the score was 5-4, not 9-1. And the relief goaltender in this case was new acquisition, making his Ottawa Senators debut, Cam Talbot.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, poop.
A goalie who is historically the Golden Knights' kryptonite. Now, I'm not sure when the game decided to change and become interesting, but I think it has something around the McNabb cross-checking penalty at 12:18. Now, the Golden Knights killed this penalty really, really well for 1 minute and 58 seconds until that dreaded time right at the end of a penalty kill when the defense core is tired, the forwards are finally established, and right as the penalty expired, Claude Giroux takes a cross-crease pass and fires it home to make it 5-2. Now, this is kind of a culmination of all the pressure that the Sens had shown the entire power play, despite not really having much to show for it. LT has been under siege at this point. He was really busy on this power play again. And ultimately, that's Giroux's 5th of the year, 2nd of the game, and from Sanderson and Tkachuk at 14:23. Now, Ottawa's pushing really, really, really hard following that second goal, especially late into the second. And their pressure just keeps finding cracks in our defense as Tkachuk and Stützle, with about 1.5 minutes left to go in the period, find a way to capitalize from a poor keep from our defenders at the blue line, and they walk in 2-on-1. And ultimately, Tkachuk fires it. LT makes the save, but it kind of breaks off of him, trickles in behind, and Stützle is there to tap in the can of corn that is this goal to cut the lead down to 2, making it 5-3. Stützle is 2nd of the year from Tkachuk and Zaitsev at 18:39. Now, at this point, the second period comes to an end, and the Golden Knights are kind of in a world of hurt. They were dominating the game until like 5 minutes ago. They had a 4-goal lead until 5 minutes ago, and now the Sens have cut that lead in half before the period even ended. They were not the best team on the ice. They really haven't led any categories, any metrics this entire game. They've just been more efficient with their chances. We failed to shut down Ottawa after going up 5-1, and that late goal was an absolute killer at the end of the period, momentum flipper. Ottawa's out shooting us 35-22 at this point and 19-9 in the period. We're only 49% from the dot, 14 hits and 15 blocks. Now that 35 shot mark, 35 shots against through 2 periods is important because that ties the franchise record for shots against in 2 periods. You have to go all the way back to game number 1 as a franchise to find a game where the Golden Knights surrendered this many shots through 40 minutes. And so that kind of tells you the rarefied air that we're in. And the fact that we're still ahead by 2 at this point is honestly a miracle. Logan Thompson's having another one of his incredible games, despite only, surrendering 3, but it really should have been 2 because that first one was just a fluky bounce. But anyway, it's just a messy period. And they need to play strong to open up the third. Unfortunately, that's not quite what happened. As pretty early on, the Golden Knights were pretty obviously getting outclassed in terms of speed and puck possession. the most dangerous thing to have against a young team is to give them hope. And that's exactly what the Golden Knights did by having the lead get cut in half late in the second period. And ultimately, Brett Howden would be the one to kind of really uncork this area, this mess, as he kind of fanned on a clearing attempt that resulted in Tim Stützle walking in it resulted in another extended zone time, which Tkachuk found it, passed it over to Stützle, and there was really nothing Logan Thompson could do off just another horrific turnover. So Stützle's third of the year, his second of the game from Tkachuk at 2:34, really opens up this game to be whatever the heck it's going to be now that the lead's down to 1, what was 4. This was probably the worst possible start for the Golden Knights that they could have even imagined. There's so much time in the period for the Sens to tie this game. Hell, even take advantage and go up in regulation. Anything can happen at this point. Ottawa has all the momentum, especially following the goal until about 5 minutes in. 5 minutes into the period, the Sens have carried the momentum. Fortunately for the Golden Knights, they get a little bit of a reprieve as Tkachuk takes a slashing penalty at 6:48. And ultimately, the Golden Knights aren't really able to do much except for get one good stuff play around the net, which resulted in another penalty as Nikita Zaitsev closed his hand over the puck at 7:49. What was originally considered to be a penalty shot, because it looked like he closed his hand over the puck in the crease, resulted in just a standard 2-minute penalty. So ultimately, now the Golden Knights are on 5-on-3 for a little bit of for like half of a normal power play, so about a minute. And at this point, I wrote down that the Golden Knights either score here or we're probably going to lose, because the Sens have all the momentum, and killing a 5-on-3 only gives them even more. Marchessault had a really good chance in a backdoor feed. Talbot stoned him cold, and that was the only shot on the 5-on-3 portion. And then for the rest of the penalty to Zaitsev, so the next minute of 5-on-4 hockey, there was another good chance for Marchessault on a rebound that he just missed. And beyond that, there was no more activity. So the Sens killed off 5-on-3, huge momentum boost off the back of that kill. And it continued on throughout the period. The Golden Knights had no sustained pressure since the end of the power play until about 7 minutes to go in the period. In reality, they kind of started to play prevent defense as while the Senators were playing really, really well, firing pucks from every which direction on Thompson, who was making every save. The Golden Knights chucked it into prevent defense with about 5 minutes to go. Marchessault had a partial breakaway just shortly after the 5-minute mark to go, kind of fired it off to the side of the net. And ultimately, the Golden Knights just kind of took the zone, blocked a lot of shots, did everything they could to get the puck out and keep the lines fresh and kind of play prevent defense. Only one forward in on the forecheck as opposed to their normal 2. And ultimately, this effectively wound a lot of time off the clock, as nothing really interesting would happen until Talbot was pulled with about 1:50 to go. And then the Golden Knights spent the last 50 seconds in the defensive zone, of which they faced like 6 shots, most of which were blocked. And ultimately, they're able to hold on just to their 5-4 victory. And we can all breathe a sigh of relief. Golden Knights are now 2-0 on this road trip, and oh my goodness, it was stressful. Holy moly. All I have to say in retrospect for this game is, guys, what was that? What the heck was that? You play such good games against Winnipeg and such a gutsy game against Washington just 2 nights ago, that to come out, get up to that big lead, and then not step on your opponent and make sure that the game never gets interesting is a little bit questionable. Ottawa outshot us 46-32 when it was all said and done. We were 50-50 from the dot. We ended the game with 26 hits and 21 shot blocks. This game is historic because it's the most shots against Logan Thompson's ever faced, and it's the most saves he's ever made, and it's the most shots the Golden Knights have surrendered this season so far. I really liked the 5-1 lead. I really liked the way that it started. I didn't like the way they followed it up after the Carrier goal, which at the time seemed mundane, wound up being the game-winning goal. The fact that it got that out of hand is kind of questionable, especially with our next game against Montreal. You got to be able to put teams away. Like, I know we put them away. I know we got the 2 points. I know we didn't take extra time to do it. It was just not what I was expecting after going up by 4, even before the halfway point of the game. It was just a weird game overall. The Golden Knights did a lot of good things, but they also did a lot of bad things. The defense core was busy, but they, didn't do a good job maintaining possession. There was a lot of turnovers. and I honestly lost track of how many unforced errors the Golden Knights made. So honestly, Logan Thompson did a good job keeping us in the game. The defense core, despite having a shaky game, kept it interesting, made sure to keep the puck under control in the last minute and a half with the goalie out for Ottawa. And really, despite the mess that it was, it was another in a long line of different ways the Golden Knights can win games. We know how to blow people out, we know how to come from behind, and we know how to hold people, we know how to hold other teams whenever they're pushing to try and get a game to go to overtime. So while it's not the best game in the world, it's a good learning experience for the Golden Knights, especially this early on into the season, as these are the kind of games you're going to get later on in the year and hopefully in the playoffs, especially when a team's fighting for its own life. So, try and find the silver linings. 2 points is good. Silver linings good. Learning experience is good. Another win for Logan Thompson. Another strong statistic night for everybody. Another good night for the top line. Good night for the depth. So, got to take the good with the bad. And so that's what I'm choosing to do. That being said, good game. Excited for the next one against Montreal. Thanks for watching very much. If you liked it, be sure to like the video. If you really liked it, subscribe for more like it. I do this after every single game, and there hasn't been any major news, but I do a breakdown of every major news too. Comment down below if you want to interact with me, as I love responding to you guys. You guys are all cool. My very small, tight-knit community so far, which I appreciate you guys very much for watching. And I will catch you guys in the next one.